Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, August 11th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. In yet another effort to combat COVID-19, a new order is going out tonight. It's from the governor to teachers and school staff across the state, mandating that they show proof of vaccination. As KPBS's Alexandra Rangel reports, the goal is to keep our kids safe in the classroom.
We think this is the right thing to do, and we think this is a sustainable way to keeping our schools open.
School teachers and school staff in California are now required to show proof of COVID vaccination or undergo weekly testing. The new policy announced by Governor Gavin Newsom goes into effect August 12th. Schools must be in full compliance by mid-October. Newsom applauded the state for having some of the highest vaccination rates, but says it's not enough.
We need to do more and do better by becoming the first state in the country to require vaccine mandate, or at least verification, and or a testing requirement.
San Diego Unified School Board President Richard Barrera says their district has had a vaccination policy since the spring.
Because we had a testing program already in place, it was easier for us to mandate that staff either go through the testing or show proof of vaccination.
He says most teachers were in favor of the district implementing all possible health requirements.
Students who are 12, who are under 12, they don't even have access to the vaccine yet. So, all of our elementary school students and a large number of our middle school students go to school every day without access yet to the vaccine. So, adults really need to do the responsible thing and get themselves vaccinated.
This policy comes just weeks after requiring state workers and healthcare workers to show vaccine verification. Whether students will be required to get the vaccine if and when it is approved by the FDA remains to be seen. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
Starting today, anyone visiting a hospital or skilled nursing facility in California will be required to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. All visitors must also wear a face mask with a surgical mask or double masking recommended. There is an exemption for people visiting a patient who is near death and does not apply to people visiting outside of the building. Almost all 50 states are seeing a rise in COVID cases. According to Johns Hopkins University, hospital beds are filling up, leaving many patients to seek treatment in neighboring states. Daryl Forges now with more on what's being done to enhance vaccination requirements for workers.
Tim Cotto has been at Kingwood Emergency Hospital since last Wednesday after being diagnosed with COVID pneumonia and needs urgent care. The hospital is out of ICU beds.
As we're leaving, the nurse comes running out that he had gotten a bed in New Mexico. So we were so excited and we celebrated, but unfortunately since then, my husband has taken a turn for the worse.
As ICU beds run low nationwide, 45 states saw a rise in cases in the past week, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. And as students head back to the classroom, a new national survey from Kaiser Family Foundation shows 63% of parents want mask requirements at schools, but 58% of parents with children ages 12 to 17 believe vaccines should not be required.
There's only one way to manage this, and that is to demand that everybody who's in a classroom is masked and that everyone who walks into that school who's vaccine eligible is vaccinated.
And Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear signed an executive order requiring masks in schools and daycares. As schools battle this issue, some businesses are trying to decide whether or not to mandate vaccines for employees. Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
The CDC is strengthening its recommendation for pregnant women to get a COVID vaccine. Health officials say they are not seeing vaccine safety concerns regarding pregnancy. The CDC says pregnant women who don't get vaccinated are at increased risk of severe illness from COVID-19 and preterm birth. The agency also shot down the myth that vaccines can cause fertility issues, saying that there is no data to support that assertion. And with coronavirus infections on the rise, discussion around the need for a booster shot is heating up again. Drug makers say they are ready to go, but medical experts say current vaccines offer good protection. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman explains.
We will be seeing booster shots for immune-compromised individuals, and that's who needs them. I don't think it'll be broadly for the entire population.
Infectious disease specialist Dr. Shira Abelis at UC San Diego Health is predicting, like other experts, that booster shots will likely be recommended for those most at risk of being hospitalized or dying from the virus.
The very elderly, and then certainly for people with immune-compromised conditions, such as those who've gotten an organ transplant or bone marrow transplant, they would really benefit from the extra protection from a vaccine.
Even though there is a lot of discussion around booster shots, county-run vaccination sites are still open for first and second doses. Nurses and staff are here ready to deliver vaccinations, but demand has definitely fallen. Vaccination staff at the Jacobs Center off Euclid Avenue say people come in waves here. National City resident Joanna Coronado just got the single-dose Johnson & Johnson shot.
One and done.
She recently had a baby and with some complications during pregnancy wanted to wait to get the vaccine. She says she is not opposed to booster shots if they are eventually recommended.
If I have to get a booster shot, I mean, it is what it is, and I'll have to come and take it. I wouldn't want to not take it and then get sick again, so I'd rather just get the booster shot for me personally.
In San Francisco, health officials are allowing those who got the J&J vaccine to get booster shots right now, but some medical experts question if that's necessary.
We are not offering or advocating for that at this time. We're definitely waiting for more data.
Federal regulators could be approving booster shots for immunocompromised people very soon. The FDA is also expected to give full authorization for the vaccines any day now, something that could drive more people to get their shots.
Certainly right now, the priority is vaccinating the unvaccinated, because we are seeing good protection from the vaccines.
Now just over 2 million San Diegans are fully vaccinated. That's just under the goal set by health officials of vaccinating 75% of eligible residents. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And a reminder, everyone aged 12 and up may be eligible for a vaccine. You can find more information on our website, kpbs.org, and click on the vaccines link right on our homepage. San Diego small businesses and nonprofits hit hard by the pandemic can apply for grants starting today. The city and the San Diego Foundation are putting up $12 million for the COVID relief program. Each chosen applicant will receive about $5,000. Businesses and nonprofits applying must be within San Diego city limits. The application process continues through September 24th. You can find out more online at sdreliefgrant.com. Getting help for people experiencing homelessness has been a frequent challenge for San Diego, but now a new city official is in charge of finding new solutions. KPBS reporter Melissa May has more.
Mayor Todd Gloria installed Half Sakeka earlier this week as the city's Director of Homelessness Strategies and Solutions Department. And today, they both spoke with KPBS's Midday Edition.
It's my pleasure to welcome both to Midday Edition.
Gloria says the homelessness crisis is one of the most complex issues the city faces because each person's situation is different.
Global macro level issues of income inequality and a mental health crisis, a global pandemic, all of these things are conspiring to make the circumstances on our city streets and the streets of other American cities get worse.
Keika previously served as the Homeless Solutions Officer for the city of Riverside. She designed and implemented a program that removed the city's largest encampment.
We know that we are working and building upon the community action plan. We know that we are definitely looking at incorporating additional shelters, as the mayor just mentioned. We are really enhancing our outreach.
She also plans on expanding the department to include qualified individuals who will help execute programs and services.
And these best practices include housing first, harm reduction, motivational interviewing, the social work key skills needed to be able to engage persons persons experiencing homelessness.
The director understands it's a very complex issue.
We know that the complexities within the homeless infrastructure, the ecosystem, it's not monolithic. Every individual comes unique, and every individual has to have the ability to be addressed.
And once that's in place, Keika says that's when city, county, and community partners can increase their efforts.
We really need to look at coordinated outreach, that first touch for individuals or persons experiencing homelessness. Oftentimes it's about access, so we coming to them.
Mayor Todd Gloria adds that he and Keika will also be looking to reduce homelessness specifically in veterans and youth. Melissa May, KPBS News.
He was a catcher turned cop, a former Padre, a San Diego police officer who friends and coworkers described as an all-around good guy. And today, a memorial service was held for Dan Walters, who died of injuries sustained in the line of duty back in April of 2020. But because of the pandemic, services were put off until today at Shadow Mountain Church in El Cajon. Walters played with the Padres back in 1992 and 93. He then served 5 years on the force before being shot in the neck during a domestic disturbance call in Southcrest, which left him in a wheelchair.
Dan was a warrior through and through. Dan had a life expectancy of 10 years after his injury, but he lived almost 17. And I'll tell you, those were not easy days, months, or years. Dan spent months at a time in hospitals dealing with infections. He experienced painful spasms in his legs. He had open wounds. And mentally, he would have his days where he just wanted to throw in the towel, but he never did.
Dan Walters was just 53 years old. Two big wins for the Biden administration as Democrats are touting the passage of the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure plan, as well as a $3.5 trillion budget resolution. Reporter Isabel Rosales has the details.
Back-to-back wins for President Joe Biden's agenda.
On this vote,
Democrats are touting the Senate passage of the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure plan and a nearly 3 times as expensive sweeping budget resolution passed on a party line vote.
Now is the moment to put in place the long-term plan to build back America better.
Combined, they create a blueprint for a national transformation, improvements to public works, and expanding the social safety net. The bills now head to the House, where congressional Democrats are relying on a slim majority to pass both. However, moderate Democrats could put a damper on the progress of the budget plan, many critical of the price tag and priorities. If the budget resolution passes the House, it faces an uncertain future in the Senate with no Republican support.
This budget resolution, full of reckless taxing and spending.
Democrats will need to pass the monumental program through a budgetary process known as reconciliation. This would allow the package to advance with only Democratic votes.
My entire caucus agrees that there's much more that needs to be done.
But the entire caucus may not be on board with the resolution itself. Both Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have raised concerns over the price tag. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is pushing back against that criticism.
It'll be paid for by making our tax code more progressive and more fair.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
Time to check your mailbox. Sample ballot and voter information pamphlets for the California gubernatorial recall election are on the way. The Registrar of Voters Office says all of San Diego County's 1.96 million registered voters should get their pamphlets by August 21st. You can also find all the information online at sdvote.com. All voters will also get a mail ballot for the September 14th election. Tomorrow, the Census Bureau is set to release data on the changing U.S. population. It's expected to show that dozens of counties across 18 states no longer have a majority racial or ethnic group. Most of those states are in the South and Southwest. The non-Hispanic white population is expected to shrink for the first census on record. A group of residents in Rancho Penasquitos is suing the city over the Junipers housing development. It's a 536-unit senior community project approved by the City Council in June. KPBS's Alexandra Nguyen has more.
We'll have to wait, I guess, for a long time.
Ilham Samsani lives across the street from the construction of Millennium PQ. It's a 331-unit apartment home at the corner of Penasquito Drive and Carmel Mountain Road. It's right below where the Junipers will be built.
More than 1,000 houses are in this street, and there's no other way for them to leave that street in case of emergency except for this Penasquito Drive.
This is Penasquito Drive, and right here close to Carmel Mountain Road, it is a 4-lane street, but just up that way, maybe a few hundred yards, and it turns into a 2-lane street.
Concern over adequate evacuation route is part of the reason why Penasquito Northeast Action Group is suing the city to stop the Junipers project. Mike Slavin is with the group. He says he is concerned over the fire danger the project poses.
We are landlocked. We have one way in, one way out. That hill there, that is the Black Mountain Open Preserve. It's a danger waiting to happen. We are one of the few San Diego communities that does not have an approved fire plan because we only have one way in, one way out.
Everett Delano is the group's lawyer. He says PQNE has been trying to work with the developers and the city on this issue, but got nowhere. So they felt the lawsuit was the only way their voices could be heard.
In essence, what the case is saying is the city approved a project that's going to dump a lot of bad impacts. Impacts in terms of fire safety, impacts in terms of traffic impacts, and other kinds of impacts onto the community without adequately addressing those.
It's not that we are against development, but what we want is safe development.
Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
The city attorney's office says it will review the complaint and respond in court. Lennar Homes, the project's developers, did not respond to a request for comment. Mother Nature provided quite a light show overnight. Lightning strikes could be seen in various parts of the county. One strike hit a boat in Paradise Hills, causing a fire. The owner said he heard a loud boom, came outside to find the boat in flames.
We're going to be talking about some monsoon moisture lingering for some, mainly in the mountains here over the next several days, and we still have some flash flood watches that remain in effect through later this evening. Temperature-wise, for the most part, we're going to be pretty seasonably warm. No real changes in that department. Perhaps in a couple spots warming up just a little bit as we move into the weekend. I mentioned that we still have some flash flood watches. Those remain in effect through late Wednesday evening. After that, they will be allowed to expire. Temperatures as we move into tonight, getting down to 63 in Escondido, getting down to 69 over in San Diego. Mount Laguna 65, Braco Springs at 77 there for your overnight low. Thursday's kind of a typical day here for most. Temperatures near normal for this time of year. That monsoon moisture looks to pull back just a little bit, but there's still the possibility we do get in on some of that moisture in some of the higher terrain. Temperatures here on your Thursday getting up into the triple digits in Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna, a few storms for you with temps in the mid 70s. San Diego getting up to 81 degrees, again seasonable for this time of year. And then Friday, the heat really begins to build on in from Nevada to central portions of California north. Across Southern California, I do think for the most part we're going to stay pretty seasonable out there. Near the coast, temperature-wise, we're going to be in the low 80s, upper 70s, and not a whole lot of change here. Further inland, temperatures also hovering upper 80s, low 90s. There's a possibility for a little bit of stormy action here as we head into next week, but otherwise it's mostly sunny. It's warm for, again, this time of year. In the mountains, here's where all the moisture is. Basically, just about every day we have the possibility for a thunderstorm to pop up with temperatures generally sitting in the mid 70s. That monsoon moisture is to thank for some of those shower and storm chances. And in the deserts, we also have that possibility for some storms, but most of that holds off until we get into Sunday and Monday of next week. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
California's largest wildfire in recorded history is still growing. The east end of the Dixie Fire in Northern California flared up yesterday as winds increased in the afternoon. It has destroyed more than 1,000 buildings, and that includes nearly 550 homes. Much of the small town of Greenville was destroyed last week.
A lot of history in this town. Until you actually really come here and you actually see this, the pictures that you see on TV don't do no justice at all, none.
Governor Gavin Newsom declared a state of emergency for northern Shasta, Trinity, and Tehama counties. The declaration frees up state resources to help fight the flames and help people affected by the fires. Californians are also dealing with the crippling effects of a historic drought. Lake Oroville is at its lowest level in nearly 44 years, impacting recreation and wildlife. Stephanie Lynn has more.
A shuttle boat ferries people back and forth across Lake Oroville. Now it's the only way to get to the houseboats on the water.
There is no launch ramps open, and we haven't for a few weeks now.
California's drought is drying up the lake, impacting all those who use and rely on it yet again.
Every year there seems to be a disaster, an issue. I mean, last year we had COVID, and that lost access.
And who could forget the Oroville Dam spillway crisis that threatened hundreds of thousands of homes in 2017? Heavy flooding damaged the spillway, but today, a very different picture. This entire area, once covered with water, now sun-baked, cracked, and desperately dry.
It's just sad. It's hard for the communities.
Dozens of houseboats sit empty on stacks of wood nearby. We want to give you another sense of just how far those water levels have fallen. Take a look behind me here. You can see the tree line back there, and that's where the water level used to be. Since then, it's fallen about 300 feet.
I've been in California my whole life. I've never seen it that low.
Mark Russell drove to Butte County all the way from Fairfield to see the dam with his family. He remembers a very different Lake Oroville 10 years ago.
The water was actually into the parking lot, and I had to go almost to my knees to get to the boat ramp.
Quite the opposite today. And the low water levels are also impacting the local wildlife. State park reps tell me that animals like the deer are having to travel further out from the shelter of the tree line to get to their drinking water, which makes them more vulnerable to predators. Reporting from Oroville, Stephanie Lynn.
Oceanside officials are moving ahead with plans to capture ocean sand to help bolster the city's beaches over the objections of Mayor Esther Sanchez. Here's KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson.
Construction of the Camp Pendleton Harbor in 1942 created a long-running sand erosion problem for the North County community. City officials hope to fix that by building underwater barriers to keep the sand from moving out of the region. Most of the speakers at the meeting spoke out in favor of the plan because the city's beaches are shrinking. The Surfrider Foundation opposes the project because it could rob sand from beaches south of Oceanside.
It's kind of a zero-sum equation in some sense. Again, sand dynamics are really complicated, but if you're blocking sand here, the sand is not going there.
Walsh says the city should be putting more energy into planning for all aspects of sea level rise in their local coastal planning update, which is already underway.
The city is in the midst of this big process and project that should include transparent review of options for the city to do sea level rise planning that is equitable, that engages the community. It doesn't really make sense to us that it would commit to a $51 million project that's not specified in that plan.
The California Coastal Commission will have to evaluate the project at some point. They haven't approved a sand retention project like this one in decades. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Effective today, more protection for the public and sea lions in La Jolla. City officials secured an emergency coastal permit that allows for a temporary seasonal closure of Point La Jolla through September 15th. The closure comes during the pupping season. It's a sensitive time when sea lions are born and they learn to swim. Sea lion mothers can become aggressive when they feel threatened as a result of visitors that get too close. The Metropolitan Transit System is switching to a new fare payment system. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it's meant to make riding public transit a bit easier.
If you ride the bus or trolley, it's time to say goodbye to the Compass card and say hello to Pronto.
The technology's gotten outdated and there's been new things that have come along
to really help the passenger experience.
MTS spokesman Mark Olson meets us at a trolley station in Chula Vista, one of more than 50 events where customers can get their new Pronto cards for free. Olson says one of the best features of the new system is a pay-as-you-go function called fare capping.
What fare capping does is it provides the best fare for people when they're riding. And the smart card figures out what the best fare is going to be for that person. So it's one less thing that our customers need to worry about. So they're never going to pay more than a day pass in a given day or a monthly pass in a given month.
I typically take an Uber to work, but then getting off in the morning, I'll take the bus.
Fare capping is a useful tool for less frequent riders like Kiera Key. She says loading monthly passes or cash onto a Compass card was a hassle.
If you weren't at a trolley station, you had to go to certain stores, so I think Pronto will be a little bit more readily available for people that aren't mobile.
Now, to entice passengers into the new fare collection system, MTS is offering free rides for the entire month of September, but you have to have a Pronto card. Reporting at the H Street Transit Center, Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The Pronto system comes with a new smartphone app as well. You can find out how to get your Pronto card by going to ridepronto.com. Weather permitting, it should be quite the sight tonight. The Perseid meteor shower is set to peak with up to 40 shooting stars per hour. Viewing should be especially good because the moon is at a crescent phase and will be setting early. Cloud cover and city lights could make viewing harder in some areas, so moving inland might help. The cosmic event will peak at midnight to dawn on Friday. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a good evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.